Hi everyone, my name is Omar and welcome back to the Debo's Way. So listen, I know we're both not in the same room, but I want you to be a part of this conversation. So in today's story, you're the main character. And now before we start our conversation, I want you to go into this with an open mind. Because I promise you, the ideas that I'll be sharing today will help you with anything that you want to do in life. Because if you and you aren't on good terms together, there's a lot of external factors that will shake your base. So story time. Now I want you to imagine that you have a friend, and that friend he lives right next door. But you've been knocking on that friend's door for days, weeks, or maybe even years. But the thing is, whenever you go knock on that door, no one answers. And sometimes you want to share good news. So for example, you had a midterm and you did so well and you studied so hard and you want to share the good news, but the friend isn't answering the knocks. Or maybe you want to share some bad news. You got out of a relationship. Maybe you had an assignment at work that didn't go so well. And you want to talk to someone. You want to reflect. You want someone to listen to you. But you go knock on the door and the friend doesn't answer the door. And now, like I said, you've been knocking for quite a while now. So you start to think, well, this friend is ignoring me. But here's what you don't know. That friend is sitting in a room that's so loud they can't even hear the knocks. And now where is this noise coming from? The noise is coming from work, relationships, university, family, friends, social media, all these things that tend to eat up our 100 gigabytes. And the 100 gigabytes, I have a full video about that. But the idea is that it's the mental capacity that we have. So you're trying to reach out to this friend, but the friend can't even hear the knocking. There's so much noise in the room. The friend isn't choosing to ignore you. They just don't know that there's knocking happening because of all the noise. And now after knocking for a few days, weeks, or like I said, maybe even years, you decide, well, I've been knocking and this friend just isn't opening the door. So I'm gonna stop knocking on this friend's door. But then one day comes and that friend starts to lose some of the noise. So maybe they get out of a relationship. Maybe they lose their job. Maybe they graduate from university and they have some time off. So the noise that's in the room starts to slowly go away. But then you're no longer there. But you've been knocking for so long that the echoes from the knocks that you've been knocking are starting to get heard by that person in the room. So then they decide to reach out. But now how do you feel? Well, you've been knocking for days, weeks, or maybe even years, and that friend's never even bothered to open the door. I want you to ask yourself this question. How would you feel? You've been trying to reach out to someone for a year, 2 years, maybe even 3 years, maybe even a lifetime, and they've never even opened the door. And now they want to come and talk to you. How is that going to make you feel? Ask yourself, like, really, how would that make me feel? Resentful? Maybe. Angry? Maybe. Annoyed? Maybe. Think of all these feelings that you'll start to feel. Well, now they want to talk to me. I've been trying to knock for so many years. Now, what if I told you that the person that was in the room was also you? And the person that was knocking on the door are past versions of yourself. And now these are past versions of ourselves that we've neglected. So that 19-year-old Omar that got the GPA he wanted, he was so happy. He came and he knocked on my door and he was like, let's celebrate. We got the GPA you wanted. But I couldn't even hear him because there was so much noise in the room. I was thinking about the next internship. I was thinking about the next year, the next. And I didn't give him a chance to be happy. I was like, oh, we'll probably get happy later. That's even if I heard the knock, which I don't even remember hearing. Is that not crazy? And this is just one example. This is with the good stuff. Imagine with the bad stuff. Imagine you've just gotten out of a relationship and you just want to talk to yourself. You want to reflect. You want to go like, what just happened? But then instead, there's so much noise going on. So much noise in our minds. So we decide to neglect ourselves. We decide to push things under a rug. We're like, oh, we'll deal with that later. Let's go distract ourselves. We've neglected so many versions of ourselves. And then after a while, they stop knocking. But then as the noise starts to decrease, we're like, whoa, someone's been knocking for a while. Let me go try to check up on them. Now, when I started to realize that this is what I've been doing with myself, I decided to go and knock on this person. I decided to go and knock and tell him, let's talk. But I've been neglecting him for years and years. So how do you think he felt? Of course he was resentful. Of course he was angry. He didn't even open the door. Now he could hear my knocking, but he decided not to open the door because of course he felt angry. But in the same way he was patient with me when he was trying to talk to me, it was my turn to be patient. And I had to lower my ego. And I told myself, you've been neglecting him for years. It's your turn to be patient. And I was patient and patient and patient until one day he decided to open the door. And he told me, you've been neglecting me for so many years. And I told him, I'm sorry. You're right. I had so much noise in my head and I didn't even know you were knocking. But then he told me, why didn't you empty out the noise? And then I told him, I didn't even know there was noise. And that was the scary part. And then me and him, we would get into daily arguments, daily battles, where he would come and tell me, I just wanted you to listen to me. I wanted us to celebrate the fact that you got the grade you wanted, but you were so focused on the next thing. And then I would argue back. I would tell him I was just trying to do what I thought was best for us. And we would go into this back and forth debate. And now why am I sharing all of this? It's because I want us to take a moment to ask, has someone been knocking on our door, waiting to be heard, waiting for someone to listen to them, waiting to celebrate? And we've been neglecting them because we've been looking at the next thing. We've been focusing on our friends. We've been focusing on our family. We've been focusing on social media. All these things that tend to make up noise in our mind. And like I said, this isn't bad noise, but it's just noise. And with all these things that tend to happen, we sometimes forget that we exist. So after this video, here's what I want you to do. I want you to just take a few minutes and ask yourself, have I been neglecting myself today? Because you don't want to completely lose yourself in the process. It's good to be invested. It's good to have something that you want so badly. But just ask yourself, have I been losing myself in the process? Or have I been completely losing myself in the process? It's fine to get a bit lost sometimes and then get back on track. But you don't want to completely lose yourself in the process because there's a version of you that will feel resentful. And he'll be angry, she'll be annoyed, they won't want to talk to you anymore. So ask yourself, have I been neglecting myself? Or have there been previous versions of myself that I've neglected that are worth revisiting and being on good terms with? Because there are some past versions of yourself that I promise you will catch up to you. So it's good to turn back and say, you know what, I'm sorry that I neglected you at the time. And you'll get into a debate, you'll get into an argument, you'll have some enemies of your previous versions, and that's okay. But then you'll learn how to negotiate with them, and you'll learn how to be on good terms. Because if you and you are on the same page, I promise you, there's a lot of things that happen in the external world that will stop affecting you the way they do today. But with all the noise that's happening in our brains, you and you might not be on the same page. So you want to be friends with you. Anyways, today was quite a different type of video. I hope that I've given you something to think about. And this is my first time talking to the camera about a topic like this. So I hope that I've been able to explain my points and maybe share my experiences to help you learn something about yourself. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. And like I always say, this is the Debo's way. Find your own way. I hope to see you soon and peace.